All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation has already started, but we're just welcoming you into it. We're talking about the BBI report. Of course, it's 156 page document. I hope you've read it. There's several categories to it. We stick to the shared prosperity mostly on this particular conversation, but we'll also talk about all the other issues. What we're trying to make the heads and tails of is what's in it for you. All right, we'd like to hear from you as well. 22422 is the SMS line. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, #Daybreak. We'll sample some of your views during this broadcast, but let me start by introducing my guests, beginning from my immediate right, Honorable Chris Wamalwa. Thank you for making time. Kiminini Member of Parliament, asante for coming. And we also have Ann Vuria, UN student leader. Thank you very much for making time as well. You are the Bomas of Kenya. You're very passionate about the BBI report. You'll tell us what you think is in there for the youth. And Honorable Gladys Boss Shollei, Wasingishu Women Rep. Asante sana for making time. And Tony Watima, an independent economist. It makes the heads and tails of the economy side of it. All right, so let's get straight into it. It's pretty much the same conversation on the newspapers, the new game plan. They're saying political rivals and party leaders rally behind handshake report. Buoyant President Kenyatta pitches for new political order. That's on the Standard. Raila declares BBI is not about new positions for 2022 elections. Ruto says document addresses Wananchi's concerns. Murkomen is booed for questioning the list of speakers. That's on the Standard. On the front page of the Daily Nation, fresh starts for Kenya. Road to change begins with a national convention in January to discuss the BBI report. Rare display of unity at the launch of report, which has been described as a win-win document. And report is likely to sail through Parliament without much opposition. And that's exactly where we begin. And Honorable Chris, I'll start with you. What are first your general reactions after the launch of the BBI report? I know you've gone through it. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I think yesterday's launch was a success. I've gone through the document. I have my own concerns, but I give it like 60%. And to me, if you want to go ahead, I think the most important thing is to bring everyone on board so that's a win-win situation. And looking at the document, there are so many recommendations that have different ramifications. And when you read Article 255 of the Constitution, it's clearly stipulated what are some of the issues that you're supposed to go the popular initiative in terms of reforms or the parliamentary initiative. About 90% of the issues can be done through the parliamentary initiative. And we as legislators, I'm happy Honorable Boss Shollei is here. And it was an important day, particularly to legislators, so that we look into this matter and in a proactive way, we can start some amendments to the Constitution. But something keen was about the Healthcare Service Commission. Mm-hmm. Anything to do with the independent commissions, I think it's a referendum matter. And when you look at Article 255, it's very clear that if you're amending this Constitution, anything touching on the Bill of Rights, the term of the President, anything on Chapter 15, that is a referendum matter. So we cannot run away from referendum as far as this matter is concerned. And looking at what the presenters mentioned yesterday, this document should not just be left for the politicians. Okay. It must be inclusive in terms of the youth, the workers, the politicians, the business community, the academia, and all this. Okay. So it will be important that this document right now, it's come out, yeah, it's like a draft. It should be now subjected to public participation so that the document can be refined further. Okay. For purposes of inclusivity. All right. And acceptance. Okay. Thank you. Anne, what do you think?
I think that whatever happened yesterday was a good start, but it did not happen the way it should have happened. I believe that as Kenya, we need to come together. We do not need to lock anyone out. And therefore, where instances where we felt like as if a few people are being locked out of the BBI. BBI is building bridges. We should build bridges across the whole of Kenya. It should be felt that everyone is included in this thing.
Who do you feel was locked out?
There are so many, as you could have seen the program, there are so many people who even came up and said, this is not a report for only 2 people, this is not a report for a certain group of people. It should be a report that encompasses the whole of Kenya. Okay. Yes.
So you don't think it happened the way it should have happened, but you think it's a good report?
It's a good report.
Okay, we'll delve into it in just a bit. Honorable Gladys, what do you think?
First of all, I'm happy to see that I've read it and seen that all the recommendations that have been made, none of them require a referendum, actually.
All of them?
All of
None
them.
require referendum?
None requires a referendum.
So you and Wamalwa are reading
no, I do agree with Honorable Wamalwa to the extent that the health, anything to do with commissions requires a referendum. Except that I was saying that will not be the way to resolve it. That you can get around it. We already have a dedicated ministry. We have a board. We have so many institutions around the health sector. Do we need a commission? So we can avoid that by saying you can't spend 40 billion shillings just to set up one commission. So the rest of it does not require a referendum. That I'm happy about, because my position has always been that a BBI process is an illegality to the extent that it was going to propose a referendum, because that is not the way you change the constitution. Or if it had required any constitutional amendments, then it would have been an illegality, because you can only amend the constitution through the popular initiative or the parliamentary initiative. Yeah. But all said and done, it had three aspects. One, it is the book of lamentations, first of all. Okay. Number one. Number two, it's raised some issues, which we already know and have institutions to address them. Okay. Number three, then now there were the changes, including the bringing the PM and all. And let me just briefly say why it's a book of lamentations. Yeah. It says, there's a part where it says there are things that Kenyans, they said we have a failed political and economic system. They said Kenya spends money like there's no tomorrow. They say we do not support our athletes. It says the national cake is not being divided properly. It says Kenyans feel they've been let down by both their religious and political leaders. It says that Kenyans disrespect the law, even the police themselves. They say the public service do not even serve the public. They are rude, they are arrogant. In fact, those are the words they use: rude, arrogant, and do not care. Kenyans are insensitive to PWDs. Yeah. The public service is terrible. Our families are broken. We do not maintain public assets. You know, when you look at that, can you imagine? These are things that, yes, they may be true to an extent, yeah? Mm-hmm. And Kenyans have complained about this. But aren't these things that can be resolved by a sitting government? So with the question I'm asking, how can His Excellency the President launch and commission a report that indicts his own government? He basically says, I have failed. I want you to juxtapose those issues that were brought out as challenges happening in Kenya, yeah, and you look at the Jubilee manifesto. Everything he promised us, he's now saying has failed. So he has actually written his own obituary as head of state through this BBI report, because he promised us 800,000 jobs. Now he's telling us the problem. BBI has told us, actually, tuliongea na kila mtu, and everybody has said problems of unemployment. The youth are here, and they know that. Now, and also, then, let's look at the part where they raised what they were supposed to be recommendations. The recommendations they make are things that can be addressed by already existing institutions, which any sitting government should whip its institutions to work. If we talk about inclusivity, inclusivity is already addressed by Chapter 4 of the Constitution. No less than, I think, 20-something articles deal with the issue of the Bill of Rights, inclusivity. Youth is the Article 55, yeah, minorities and marginalized groups, Article 56, older members of society, 57, the Kenya National Human Rights and Equality Commission, Article 59. So why don't we just implement? If we implemented this, we'd not be talking about, in fact, the money they wasted on BBI is the money they should have spent on ensuring that we implement this.
So you don't even think we needed this report?
We did not need the report, because I'm telling you, the issue they raised are issues we knew, which is, I'm happy with the issues they raised, because the issues they raised are true. No, let me finish first. The issues they raised, yeah, are issues that we already knew, yeah, but I'm happy they raised them, because now they can come to the front so that we can have a conversation about it.
So you think it's an admission of failure?
It's an admission of failure, one. Number two, on inclusivity, I've told you there's chapters. On devolution, we already have part 2 and 3 of our constitution is dedicated to the issue of devolution. Divisive politics, we have chapter 7 on representation of the people. If we are talking about safety, we have a chapter 14 which is dedicated to national security. Yeah. Are you telling me the police, the IPOA, the army, all that we have established cannot take care of the issue of security? Okay. If you look at the issue of corruption, we have ESCC, we have DPP, we have DCI. And so really, when you talk about electoral theft, the only thing you should be asking me, electoral theft, is the president saying he stole the election? No, because if you're admitting that there was electoral theft, and there is electoral theft, but again, if that is the case, those are offenses under the IEBC. No, I must finish. I must finish. I spent the whole night reading this document. Yeah.
On the issue of employment, yes, you're telling us the employment, but if we implemented the big four, if we had left BBI aside, because we started focusing on BBI, we forgot about the big four. If we had focused on the big four, we'll deal with the issues of unemployment, the issue of the economic situation. In fact, one of the things that BBI has said is that Kenya is unsafe. Now, how are we going to attract tourists and investors if we have said it in a state function, officiated by no less than the president himself, that my country is safe? Actually, I felt so sad. I said, why would you write a bad story about yourself? And yet, we have institutions for exactly that reason, to address these issues. And then, finally, on the issue of, finally, the last part, because I said it has 3 aspects. The last part that they recommend. I mean, the changes, in fact, nothing else is new. The rest are things that we know should have been done. But the one thing that they have raised is the issue of Prime Minister. Prime Minister, really, there's nothing that is different. It is the way Matiang'i was made coordinator of wherever. So all you do is that the president is just being given power to hire another minister whom he calls Prime. Just the way you hired another minister called Tuju, who is a I don't know, Tuju is another minister. So it's the same, so nothing can change. I appreciate the fact that they recognize the fact that we should have more women, that by saying that anybody running for government, in the Senate, I mean,
Ambija,
has to have a woman.
Yes, has to have a woman. Then, finally,
the rules of
so I appreciate that. That one is a very good, when they say about 70-30 of our resources, 70% should be development and 30%, that's already the case. When you talk about, we are retaining the 47 counties, but they should get into the voluntary regional blocks. There is already voluntary regional blocks. There is no REB. I know
we have an entire hour for this.
The issue is the rules of thumb, when it comes to debate, it must be structured. And if even both Shollei is misleading,
you will go to.
Interject.
She has taken 3 of them. You will answer.
I've just said my opinion.
So let's hear what Tony has to say first.
I've not misled
and then I'll come to you. Yes, Tony, what do you think?
I think what Gladys says is what I tend to agree. That the issues raised, especially from the economic angle, I'll speak about the economics of it, is that are things that the government of today can handle. So the many problems that are raised, especially the views of the public. You talk about unemployment, you talk about national saving, you talk about development expenditure and all that. Those are things that we can do right now, proactively as a government. So we are not having real solutions from this. I think they identified the problems themselves, especially the economic problems, but the recommendations they gave, I think, were quite ambiguous. One of them was that we need to prioritize the East African market for local investment.
It's a ministry for East Africa.
We are bigger than that. And Uganda and Tanzania have been catching up with us. So we need to look outside that market. We talk about 70% to 30% resource allocation. I think from an economic angle, that is not the case, that economic development is primarily driven from the development side. For example, you talk about building an expressway from Westlands to JKIA. It takes 60 billion. The number of people who use that are not even 1% of this country population. You take the same from the recurrent side. You say you're paying salaries in counties, which is around maybe 80 billion. From an economic angle, the economic impact of those two are different, because you're creating liquidity within a broader aspect if you're paying people salaries within counties compared to what you've been. So there is a fallacy, economic fallacy around that 70% development expenditure leads you to more economic growth. So it depends on how you prioritize what you're spending. Yes.
Chris, what do you?
My concern is in a structured discussion like this. I think Honorable Shollei is entitled to her own opinion, but I wish that she could bring out the context of what we are discussing about the BBI.
So start with the issue of the BBI.
The issue of the BBI is she needs to understand the background information, and this info was being given yesterday by His Excellency the President and former PM Raila Amolo Odinga. The BBI, there were terms of reference. And this is a committee that went round to hear people's opinion.
7,000
So the
people.
report, yes, absolutely, that's something.
7,000 out of 48
Anyone who has done
million.
scientific research, you don't need even 7,000. Just like when you're sick, you go see a doctor. In terms of sampling, he'll not take the entire liters of your blood. He'll only pick a sample. So this is scientific research. So you need to come here and understand why we do sampling.
Okay.
Sampling must be able to give all parameters as far as the population is concerned. Okay. So with due respect, Honorable Shollei, you can't expect the committee to have gone to ask the entire 47 million Kenyans.
Fair enough.
Now, secondly, we need to understand the context of the BBI. And the issue here is this. We've been having clashes after every 5 years. And this has worked negatively when it comes to the investors in this country. So the two principals came together and they asked themselves, why are we having wars every now and then after every election cycle? 2017, we had similar cases. 2013, when we had elections, we had a similar problem. 1997, we had it. 1992, we've had it. So we need to look for a long-term solution. So this committee was put in place to ask Kenyans, where is the problem? And that was the big issue, why this BBI was in place. In fact, in yesterday's background information, they said even, let's look back. Let's not look at 2022. So the BBI came in to look at some of the historical injustices, the clashes we've been having. People have been fighting every 5 years. We see investors, when it's electioneering time, they close the shop. They go back wherever they are.
You don't think these concerns have been addressed before? We have the Nduwaki report, we have TJRC,
absolutely.
We have all these reports.
And this matter came up yesterday where people are saying, we don't want BBI to be like any other report. It goes to gather dust at the shelves.
Okay.
So what happened is this. They were to go into and ask why. And that's why the question was asked to the president yesterday, that we don't want this to be a PR exercise. The BBI is put in place and implementation is zero. So that is the context why we're talking about the issue of the BBI. We understand the constitution is there, with due respect to Honorable Shollei. But we've had problems, like the electoral process. The elections were nullified for that matter. That means there's a problem of IBC. IBC has been a big issue as far as this country is concerned. And I'm happy with the recommendations. We are going back to the IPPG model. The players, when it comes to elections, are political parties. So it is indeed true that political parties should have a say when it comes to coming up with the commissioners. And I support that recommendation. But we want to refine it further. We want to hear from more Kenyans. How do they want the electoral process? How we want it to go? The commissioner, for instance, we've had a problem with the chairman and the CEO. So the recommendation of making the CEO, to make the chairman to be executive, I do support that. The issue of returning officers coming after you only conduct elections because they're the source of rigging. Yeah. So I support that. But this document, let's not throw it away. As we speak here today, we must speak objectively to advise the other Kenyans so that they can go and give in their inputs to refine this document.
What about the issues that Shollei is raising? We have institutions to deal with all these issues we've raised today.
It's okay. Institutions have been there.
Have they failed?
Absolutely. We've had failures in these institutions. They have failed.
They have failed.
Like when it comes to the electoral process, it has failed. When it comes to fight against corruption, with due respect, Shollei was a registrar of the judiciary. Even judiciary has also failed. And it was yesterday, I didn't see any representation of the arm of government from the judiciary. When you are discussing matters of corruption, you can't have two arms of government and the judiciary was not represented. I was coming to that. So when you are here, we want to tell the Kenyans, this document is there, but has not yet been refined. We want your inputs so that we can refine this document for the benefit and the welfare of this country. I think that's why the BBI was launched yesterday. And we support it.
Ms. Muvuria, if you allow me 1 minute to just clarify, because we have to make sure. I am saying what the BBI has written down is true, okay? Except that we did not require a process in order to tell us that. Because when we do, then we are saying our state departments have failed. Because the state departments, when you need BBI to recommend that we need to broaden our tax base, what is the job of KRA? Part of the job of KRA is to make a strategic plan of how to broaden the tax base. That is what they do from morning till evening. It is the reason why they earn salaries every end of the month. So we cannot reach a point where we condone it. And then let me put this very clearly. when you, the background of BBI. And BBI, and that is what I agree with you. You know, your Honorable Wamalwa, we always agree. And you're a very active member of parliament. And you pass very many bills. Actually, these are things that you could have passed the bills without needing BBI. I know that. In fact, aren't you one of the people who are pushing for changes in the Electoral IEBC Act? Yes. So you are even active in doing it. You didn't need BBI to do your job. Now, let us talk about that the basis was that of electoral violence every year. Yeah. Are we saying that we have condoned electoral violence? Are we saying it is permitted that when you lose, you cause chaos in the city until someone talks to you and shakes your hand? That is totally unacceptable. If it is ethnic antagonism and so on, ethnic antagonism, that's why we have the National Commission for Integration, I don't know, and the, what is it?
Cohesion.
The one? Cohesion, that one. We have a whole independent commissions, people who drive Prados and big salaries, have fancy offices. They were hired to take care of that.
Okay.
Then, when we talk about divisive politics, divisive politics is normal. It is part of democracy. Okay. Let us look at the election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. It was very divisive, to the point it was so bitter that it became personal. The country became divided. America became divided. Right. And eventually, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote.
Okay.
And Trump won the election. So that is normal. It's just that someone has to accept that they have lost,
and
period.
Very briefly, I have to take a quick break.
And this is the problem between our politicians. Our politicians think that we live in a utopia and they do not want to listen to what the youth have to say. They do not want to listen to what Kenya has to say. And that's why you hear her say that we have institutions in place. Yes, there are institutions in place, that those institutions, they have failed. And that's why we needed this BBI report to come and listen to what the Kenyans are saying, because when they're debating in parliament, they're living in their own world. They're doing their own things up there, forgetting that we Kenyans who elected them will not elect them again come 2022, because they have forgotten what we sent them to do. Because they keep on saying the institutions in place. If there are institutions in place, there is something called checks and balances. Why and whether
the president should whip his people.
Why is it not working? Because if it was working, we would not need the BBI report. But now we do need this BBI report because Kenyans are tired. Kenyans came out in large numbers to bring about their views. You saw yesterday, so many Kenyans came to Bomas. Why? They wanted to listen. They wanted to hear a new dawn for Kenya, because Kenyans do feel that there is a problem in Kenya.
So you think this is the new dawn, despite having all these reports
we should
that
be
have talked
realists
about
and not live in a
before.
utopia kind of world where we are thinking everything is working where it's not.
But we don't have guarantees that even this report will be implemented, because there's a track record of reports that have not been implemented.
It should be implemented, Ombija.
But what happened to all the other reports?
Don't be doubting Thomas's
report.
You know, here we are talking about ownership. This document is a serious document. We must get commitment from the religious leaders, the political class, the youth, everyone.
You're the one who spoke about scientific analysis. If the scientific analysis shows that 90% of the reports have not been implemented, why would this particular one be implemented?
Of course, whatever we have structures in this country, and we can't say that even Parliament, we can't say we've done 100% perfect. You know, there's room for improvement. So this BBI is bringing us on board. We want it to have ownership. We want everybody to be brought on board, so that it's a new dawn where it has taken. This ship has to take everyone. The teachers, the judiciary,
hold that thought
everyone.
1 second, because when in your opening statement you said you have concerns and you give it a 60%.
Yes, I have concerns,
so
but there's room for improvement.
We'll come to that.
This document is not 100% perfect.
Let me take a quick break now. You'll explain why you have concerns as well. So when we come back, we'll see your feedback as well. This is a national conversation. It's a 156-page document, so I hope you've read parts of it. 22422 is the SMS line. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We'll sample some of your views during this broadcast. As you can see, it's a very heated debate. I hope you have your views as well coming in just a bit.